Anno 117 Pax Romana is a city builder slash empire builder, and I've been a little bit addicted to it. By that I mean I've spent about 100 hours playing the game. Now, I am by no means an Anno expert. This is the only modern Anno game I've played, though after playing it I am pretty curious about the others because it's been really fun. With that said, over the past 100 hours, I've learned a lot from my experience, and there's a few things I did early on that I wouldn't do now, and a few things that I'm doing now which I really should have done sooner. So in today's video, I'm going to go over 10 things that I wish I knew sooner about Anno 117 Pax Romana. So first things first, trade, because trade routes are super important, and I did not use them early enough, and I didn't use a lot of trading features to the extent that I should have. My very first trade route is here, because I needed resin for amphora, or olives for olive oil, to make my plebeians happy. So this is the first trade route that I set up, or at least sort of, because it's become much more complex. At first, it was just olives are produced here, they get sent here, amphora are produced here, they get sent here. Nice and easy. But then I wanted to make my city of Argentum nicer, which will come over here. Looks pretty good. I'm very happy with how it came out. But for all of these higher class citizens, I needed higher tier goods. Argentum isn't that big. So instead of producing them on Argentum, I instead grabbed all the goods from my main island of Capua Nova, sent them over to Argentum. This is an example of what I would call a pretty simple trade route, but there are a lot more complex stuff you can do. Like, for example, this, where I'm taking Murex snails from Ravenna down to Capua Nova. I'm also stopping by at Calculus to buy some lyres for Capua Nova, and I'm taking Sandrak wood down here, plus I'm bringing olive oil up here to make my citizens happy. You can do all sorts of complex multi-step stuff. You can also do things like this, where I'm sending a whole bunch of goods to a city in Albion from a city in Latium, and then taking a bunch of Albion goods back to Latium, because all my nobles and stuff, they want one thing, they want wine, but then all of my patricians and my equites want other things, like cheese and brooches. So, this is one example of how trade is really good. That is not actually the most important thing about trade, though. The most important thing about trade is the thing that I learned second, which is if you come to a trading post here, you can click on any item, and you can sell one above a certain amount, which 500, honestly, probably a little high. I should probably set this to 400. Because if you cap out your goods, then storage is full. If storage is full, the building stops producing, which is really bad if you are relying on that building for a radius effect. Let's zoom in here. So, market, it provides a radius effect. It's a public service, always going to be up. However, a sandal maker also provides a radius effect. If this stops producing because the storage is full, well, guess what? You're not going to be making any money. And you're also going to lose the radius effect from the sandal maker. So instead, you preserve that by selling all the goods. It is very, very cool to be able to do this. And there's even a second level to it, which I've started to use, but I have not used enough, which is maintain stock. So let's say bread. I've been importing a little bit of bread. My people keep eating it all. Bread is delicious. I don't blame them. But let's say I want to get bread in here. I don't mind paying some money to ensure that Argentum always has a stable supply. I select this and I put in 50. Now, if I have over 50 bread, my trading post will automatically sell it. If I have under 50 bread, I've got 2 right now. The next time an NPC drops by, my trading post will buy it. This is a very effective way not only to sell goods for spare currency, but also to get goods you need. So let's wait for a ship to come in here. Here we go. Zara Nitu's trading, and as you can see, she sold us 50 bread. So now the bread stockpile, nice and stable. Another trader comes in, Valeria this time, and as you can see, she's doing some trading. She's going to buy a bunch of stuff. So I now get money by selling excess goods, and this cycle will just continue automatically. This is what is called passive trading, whereas the trade network that I was setting up earlier, those are active trading. Now, the next tip is to stack higher tier houses because they are really good. I've tried to up tier kind of as much as possible. I wanted to maintain some of each workforce just in case I needed the flexibility, but realistically this should be much lower. This should be like 100, 200, 100, 200, 100, 200, and then as many patricians as possible. Because let's take a look at this building. This building provides me 15 income. It houses 21 people, gives 23 knowledge. It's got some belief and some prestige. That's cool. And it benefits from a few public services, some food, and some fashion. Now let's look at a patrician residence in my city center. 52. It generates about double the money. Also, roughly double the knowledge. It has a significantly higher population, and more of these attributes are positive. That's because higher tier houses benefit from all of the goods of lower tier houses. So, this patrician residence is benefiting from the sardines and porridge, just like the Liberty would, but they also have beer, bread, garum wine, cheese, oysters with caviar, and bird tongues with aspic, which I'm not currently producing, but long story about that. And because they can benefit from all of these, they get way more attributes, making these houses much more valuable and more efficient. Basically, lower tier houses, these are the workforce that you need. Higher tier houses, these are the citizens you want to stack when you start min-maxing. Okay, so next thing. I got public services wrong when I was initially building my cities, because I was building really nice centralized districts. But then I'd have, some plebeian or liberty housing. I was like, they don't need all this stuff. It's fine. I can just go with a market and a tavern, and that fills their needs, which it does. But here's the thing. You can get extra bonuses from public services, and it really stacks up. So like right now, the city has 518 happiness. And as you can see here, this theater is covering all of these houses, and all of these as well, but this theater covers all of these. So watch what happens to my happiness if I delete this. Negative 33. So I was struggling to meet the health and fire safety and happiness in a lot of my cities because I was building the housing, or I should say I was building the services that the houses strictly required, i.e. theater is not a demand here, it's just market and tavern, but you could build all the extras and they provide all of the attributes. More attributes equals better cities. Also, on that note, something else that you can do to provide a huge amount of bonuses to your city, specialists. These go in your villa or in an officium, which these radius circles cannot overlap, so you have to kind of space things out, but if you do, very effective. And at first, the type that I was using was also a little bit wrong, where I'd have, like, this guy, plus 1.2 knowledge for residences in range. And I realized, while that's okay, someone like the Urbane Auxilia, much stronger. Why is that? Because he buffs the Custodes to provide a happiness effect. Similar thing over here, where Baker Augcrusta provides plus 2 population if bread is supplied. So basically, plebeians and above get plus 2 population. Anytime you can get fire safety, happiness, any attribute at all from resources, that's really good. You want to supply those anyway. And anytime you can enhance a building for additional effects, that's also really good. So that's what I've been doing, kind of combining both depending on what I need. And speaking of, you might notice I have these nice shiny marble roads. That's because higher tier roads are way more efficient. So let's just make a nice long dirt road. And let's pretend that this is the supply network. And let's also pretend that we have, I don't know, a woodcutter, a sawmill, who needs to get there. As you can see, the sawmill cannot get there. But if you upgrade the road, I'm going to use the upgrade tool here because it's one click. Now, look at this. The sawmill can reach the road. So this applies to any building that travels along roads. Very, very effective. And you can again upgrade things from paved to marble, which provides the city with a very nice prestige bonus. But you will notice it doesn't actually go any further. I thought the marble roads was even more travel speed. Turns out no, it's not. It's just more prestige, which late game prestige is pretty much a big deal, so I'm actually totally fine with that. Oh, and by the way, you can also upgrade your warehouses. This is really good because at first they have limited docks and they get really overworked, so just fully upgrade those suckers. Next up, I want to talk to you about religion. No, I'm not selling you on a cult. I swear, these are all totally legit gods and goddesses. But having religion bonuses are very powerful. Each deity gives a bonus that increases production. So here I have bread, porridge, wine, beer, and olive oil. Entire production chain in this city is affected. Then a passive bonus, which in this case is additional population from residences. Really good if you just want a big old city. If I went with Neptune instead, we're in Rome, not Greece. You get production chain for sardines, garum, oysters with caviar, cockles, and seashells, or essence of the hippocampus. A bonus to newly constructed ships, which is an interesting one because it means I could build ships in Argentum, get all those Poseidon bonuses, then use them wherever I want, and they'll be more durable and have reduced upkeep. Pretty good for maintaining warships. Same thing for ground troops and Mars. Then there's Minerva, who gives additional knowledge, very good for progressing, and production of some resources, which honestly not the best, but they're fine. Then Mercury, a very cool bonus of passive trade being more profitable. Epona for increased production of basically all livestock, and production building to provide population. Very, very cool bonuses to have in Albion when things are more limited. And last up, Cernunos, who I may have mispronounced the name of. Basically a bunch of tree stuff, and you get additional health and knowledge. But there's more. There are also global venerations, and I kind of messed this up a little bit, because right now the most worshipped deity is Ceres, because that is my main city. I like having a really big main city, so that's kind of why I did that. So, increasing the storage on islands. But if, let's just say, I swapped my main city to Mercury Lugus, all of a sudden, ships and wagons would unload more quickly. If I swapped to Poseidon, my ships would go faster. Well, everyone's ships would go faster, actually. In addition, there is the global veneration. This is when there are 4,000 worshippers in a city. It can be any city, and the bonus is global. So farms can support more field modules, which means more productivity. Silos, kind of sort of the same thing, except they consume wheat and make animals more efficient. Gold mine buildings near cisterns have belief. This is very good because it's a passive bonus. You want aqueducts and cisterns anyway. Similar thing for prestige on gates and towers. I don't find Minerva's bonuses as useful personally. Arboreal Rhizome is very nice. I really should have it. I've just been lazy about establishing another city. And, I mean, gladiators are cool if you want to fight stuff, but I haven't been fighting stuff, so haven't been doing that. Also, fun fact, remember the ship stuff I mentioned? Say you have a city dedicated to Neptune? Well, you can just come here and click on Workforce and draw from any city you want. So even if it's just a relatively small colony where workforce is far more scarce, doesn't matter, you can just set it to whatever city is your big old population center. As a little bonus tip, I find it good to have a big strong navy and no army at all, because if you kill all of the ships before they can land, and if you kill the pirates, nobody invades you, so you don't need a ground army. This may come back to bite me someday, but not so far. Next up, I want to talk about farming efficiency, because farms take up a lot of space. So, for example, getting the global bonus from Ceres, way more fields, more productivity. Also, an aqueduct, if you put it correctly, will boost the farm. And so this farm has 360% production, because there's the base productivity, it's connected to an aqueduct, and the city follows Ceres, so it is affected by the boon of Ceres. Same thing can be done for lavender growers, though unfortunately boon of Ceres does not apply here, though something else really cool does. Apiaries require space around them, specifically meadows. Well, as it turns out, lavender farms count as meadows, meaning you can place your apiary within your lavender farm, and it's even more efficient. I think it's really important to be efficient when it comes to farms, because farms take up a lot of space. Like, there are not that many farms here, and look at how much of my city is being taken up just by farms. And speaking of, you don't have to go crazy on production. Now, there are times where it's a good idea to overproduce or to be fully efficient, but you can always see what your citizens need here, and you can tailor that accordingly, because especially as your city's growing, sometimes it's just not that effective to go all in. Like, let's just use a production chain that I have not set up yet. So, Sturgeon Hatchery, 1 minute and 30-second processing time. But a fish gutter is 45 seconds. So that means you need 2 sturgeon hatcheries for each fish gutter. But you'll also need 2 oyster beds. And then the epic here of water is 1 minute, which, wait a minute, if it's 1 minute, then you need to rework all of these ratios yet again and have a whole bunch of production buildings. And at the end of the day, you'll be producing way more than 1 ton of oysters with caviar. While these production ratios are the most efficient way to do things, if you are able to use or sell all of the resources, when you're just starting, you might not be able to. Because a good example of this is actually what I did with my toga production. At one point, not only did I need togas for my equites, but I needed togas for the emperor, and I did not want to make the emperor sad. So I kind of overproduced, and I really should shut down some of these production buildings, because they are making way more togas than I need, and honestly, way more togas than I even know what to do with. So I'm probably going to shut down just a couple of these. Let those resources chill for a little bit. And then I can always start them back up later. Your initial city design does not have to be perfect. It can be pretty darn bad, actually. As long as it works, it's not stupid. And there's plenty of time to make it better later. A good example of this is the little industrial district I have here in Argentum, where I put a lot of time and effort into making sure all of these buildings are fully efficient and overlapping them, and then sticking all sorts of extra services and production buildings in here and the farms. And even then I'm like, yeah, but I'm missing an aqueduct connection. I could totally set up like an aqueduct connection here, which would require me to revamp a bunch of this because there's not much room for very many of these tiles to be taken up by a cistern. But I could do it. And I really want to. And so I'm probably going to. And that means, moving stuff around and revamping things. So those are some of the things I've learned playing Anno 117. If you're wondering why didn't I have the high tier food for my patricians, that is because I was trying to see if I could meet all of their needs with just low tier food, and I think it's kind of a struggle, even if you add extra stuff from Albion like beer. But hey, it's a fun experiment, and it didn't cost my city too much. I'm going to use trade / some production to fill all of those needs in my supply chain. Oh, also, there's another fun thing you can do. If a rival's being really annoying, claiming all the islands, you can become the consul, reach 100 favor with the emperor, and then just take all their stuff. There's some pretty serious repercussions, but it doesn't matter if you simply delete a rival from the game and take all of their islands. With that said, I know there's still a lot for me to learn about Anno 117 and Anno games in general. So if you're an Anno expert with hundreds or thousands of hours, please let me know some of your top tips and tricks down in the comments below. For now, thank you very much to everyone who watched to the end. I'm glad you enjoyed. If you're looking for something else to watch, maybe you sat through this whole video and you're like, yeah, but I've never played an Anno game before and I don't know what it is. If that's you, I'm glad you enjoyed the ride enough to stick around to the end. And you might enjoy my Anno 117 review that goes over some of my thoughts, broad details about the game, that sort of stuff. Also, if you found this video to be helpful, don't forget to leave a like. It really does help out with the YouTube algorithm, which unfortunately I do have to care about. And maybe share it with a friend, because Anno is the perfect game to introduce to your friend who hasn't played a city builder before, as while yes, there's a ton of content, it's not too overwhelming because it's broken down into nice, simple, step-by-step chunks. And so that, I'm going to get going. Thanks again for watching to the end, and I'll see you in the next one.